Hello, my name is Lorelai DeAndriel. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm an assistant professor of electronic art and intermedia at Michigan State University. This presentation was initially given at Kalamazoo College's the Arcus Center for Social Justice as part of a panel on feminist approaches to AI and anti-fascism. It is titled A Temple Without a Body, Bad Taxidermy and AI Art in the Classroom. Before I get into it, I've been terribly depressed, so let me start with a selfish ask of solidarity and to share some gratitude. I called Iowa home for 3 years. I came out as a trans woman in Iowa City, Iowa in 2020, and they just removed gender identity from the Iowa civil rights law, directly targeting trans people. Of course, all people will be affected by this. Your gender can now be used in the state of Iowa as a reason to fire you from a job, deny you a loan, deny you a hotel room, or for landlords to kick out your tenants. People in my community there are currently raising funds to help trans people who have been given 30-day eviction notices with no warnings or explanations. So here I am talking about AI art. How am I supposed to talk about AI art given these material conditions? Why am I even doing this? Can't my energy be better served elsewhere? Here are my answers. Number one, Walter Benjamin teaches us that analyzing art allows us to affect our material circumstances. For example, the emergence of capitalism in the 19th century combined with the emergence of new technologies such as lithography, photography, and film shifted our perceptions and thus influenced our social movements. It is then our responsibility as scholars and artists to reckon with the connections between our base of techno-fascism, neoliberalism, and the oligarchy of the American empire with our new media of poetic computation, AI art, and NFTs. How do these new technologies affect our perceptions, and how do they thus affect our social movements? As all our technology are just expressions of our material base, what are the ways in which technology and art have shifted our social movements in ways that are unique to the social movements of 100 years ago? The second reason I'm doing this is that I need money. So please give me money. The best thing that you can do for trans liberation in the United States and abroad is by directly giving money and other forms of material support to trans people. So, without further ado, this is what I have to offer you regarding AI art. It's bad, but more on that. In the essay, When You've Never Seen a Lion, Halo Starling on visually representing the intricacies of queer and trans life, Starling shares how a lack of accurate trans representation in media affected their life, something many trans people may also relate to, stating that what you see on the right is what stories about trans people look like when told by cis people. A poor translation compared with the sexy Chad lion on the left, which is meant to be trans stories told by trans people. While Starling's essay focuses on representation within television and film in connection to their own biography and arts practice, I would like to remix this example and apply it to AI art. My argument is that we should not be focusing on the inaccuracies of trans stories told by cis people. Yes, they are inaccurate at portraying the lived experience of a trans person, a recent example being the film Amelia Perez. But they are very accurate in portraying the prejudice and stereotypes held by those who have created the work and the structures that have fostered and supported those prejudice and stereotypes. There's truth and there's fact. And it is a fact that these stories hold truth for how people like me are seen by the hegemonic power structures, i.e., the United States of America KKK ruling class and all of the isms that they express through culture, economics, monopoly on violence, and governance. Quoting Starling, the taxidermist had never seen a lion except in heraldic imagery. The resulting taxidermy, now dubbed the Lion of Gripshold Castle due to its final resting place, is a comically inaccurate depiction of an actual lion, but it does look like a heraldic lion. There are two critical points to be expanded on here. In actuality, the heraldic lion algorithm worked exactly as designed. Please see this quote by Stafford Beer, which briskly defines a core component of his form of systems analysis, that the purpose of a system is what it does and not what it constantly fails to do. So in actuality, this is an excellent taxidermy. Where it fails is how it doesn't meet up to our standards of what we might describe as a real life lion. But the taxidermist wasn't making a real life lion. In fact, they were making an imperialist trophy, as the lion had been a gift to the King of Sweden from the Day of Algiers in 1731 and was stuffed after its death. A side note, people love bad taxidermy. It's funny. I think this point must not be overlooked, as it presents us with a complicated dialectic between the delight and evil of bad taxidermy and, by extension of my metaphor, AI art. AI art, like bad taxidermy, delights us in its abject failure. However, we must not forget the literal blood and bones upon which both media draw upon. All art media have a political history, and the political history of new media is uniquely being used in our contemporary moment to prop up the ruling class. AI art is perhaps the most clear in its expression of empire of any art media, as the production of AI art includes the theft of intellectual material, destruction of natural resources, and the raising of massive sums of money for tech corporations. Regardless of how we might use AI in art or in the classroom, we must hold the dialectic that whatever accessibility features, delight, or conceptual academic milieu it offers us, that machines have the morality of their inventors. And I reckon I don't need to tell you who the inventors are. They're rich people. To recap, here are three things AI art actually does. It shows us how the hegemonic power structure sees things. In the case of trans studies, how cis people see us. Here is a quote from Dr. Dan McQuillan, a lecturer in creative and social computing, who here refers to generative AI as normative AI, as it is the sedimentation of the status quo. AI art shows us how the hegemonic power structures see things, such as how cis people see us, how white people see us, how able-bodied people see us, etc. A couple other examples from Google alone includes early AI controversy, including 10 years ago when Google's picture AI conflated black teenagers with gorillas, or the more recent Google generative AI controversy, where it portrayed gender and racially diverse Nazis in response to the written prompt of 1943 German soldier. AI art raises significant investment money and good PR for big tech while displacing our focus away from the racist and violent structures AI is synonymous with, such as climate change, predictive policing, and weapons manufacturing. This quote from Lewis Mumford here describes the bargain we all have made with the use of our tech. We have been bribed with convenience. The surveillance we all consent to when we use Google, Meta social media apps, and smartphones without Tor and VPN protections, and how that data is being used to police people. In the case of AI art, we get shiny new toys, and the ruling class gets to destroy the planet and exploit the global south in exciting new ways. And lastly, AI art allows us to easily introduce creative art students to conversations about labor and exploitation under our current economic system. Suddenly, all of my students have a fear of AI taking away their creative economy jobs, to which I respond, what jobs? We then have an exciting opportunity to look at federal art spending in the US versus other countries, and look at the ways in which the students' art heroes have made careers out for themselves in and out of white wall galleries and stuffy museums. In acknowledging these 3 points in the classroom, AI art becomes a way to microdose students to anarchism, Marxism, and other very cool and scary words that otherwise would be difficult to bring up in the more conservative classroom space. My advice to you all is to try to eliminate the programmer-user divide as much as possible by learning how these AI tools actually work, learning their limitations, and engaging in what trans scholar and media artist Misha Cardenas calls algorithmic analysis. The purpose of a system is what it does, and I think a lot of the discussions around AI art right now are on what it could potentially become, and while those discussions are important, I believe they ultimately paint big tech in a favorable light that is outside of my values as an artist. We must not let consultants convince us that AI can do things that it actually cannot do. Truck drivers have more secure jobs than any of us with liberal arts teaching positions, and I'll eat my hat when AI can take me out to a nice steak dinner and wrap its cold arms around me at night. Any cursory Google search of sex robots or autonomous driving cars will promise that these things are just around the corner, and any attempt to argue that they exist right now not only require us to adjust our definitions of what it means to love, fuck, and drive effectively. However, I need you to understand these tools are being used today to literally kill people. The purpose of a system is what it does, not what it constantly fails to do. AI is not good at expressing gender. What is interesting here is how these images give us a glimpse into the data sets that inform them. My goal here in this analysis is not to imagine an AI tool that can accurately represent queerness. I am interested in their failure or bad taxidermy right now. In my classes, I often challenge students to do this sort of analysis. We might Google a word such as transgender and see what comes up, and then critically analyze what came up as a group. What I try to do with my students during exercises such as this is to illustrate what Ruha Benjamin writes, quote, "There is enormous mystique around computer codes, which hides the human biases involved in its technical design," end quote. However, AI art is horrible at hiding its makers' biases, and in this case, the makers are not just the engineers, but also the users whose data informs the algorithm. Thus, what comes up when one uses a generative AI tool is not politically neutral. Our use of technology and art in the West is built upon the exploitation of the global South. Much like it doesn't matter if a single cop is good, it doesn't matter if a single programmer isn't racist. As Benjamin argues, that a glitch in a system is often not a bug, but a feature reflecting the biases of our society. Just for laughs, here's my favorite submission from a student that I have gotten during one of my generative AI workshops. I feel gender affirmation when I look at this image. Thank you for your time and consideration of the material that I've shared with you. Here's my contact information. I would like to share that I am a video, sound, and performance artist, and I'm always looking for academic and artistic opportunities, so please reach out if you think I may be a good fit for something, or if you would like to potentially collaborate on something. If you have any comments, questions, or complaints about this presentation, you may also forward them here. On the screen, you will see example questions you may email me, such as, have you heard of a blank tenure track position? You would be a great candidate. Or, why was Peter Griffin on that one slide? Additionally, we live in a time of hypervisibility of trans people and an exponential increase of attacks to our civil rights across state houses in the United States and Canada. I urge you to call out transphobia in your professional and personal spaces. As Leslie Feinberg wrote, "My right to be me is tied with 1,000 threads to your right to be you." Please let me know if you would like any resources related to supporting students. All of the views here are expressed as my own and are not to be representative as the universal experience of all trans people or representative of any org that I am a part of. I'm an American citizen from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. I am white. I pass when I try. I am able-bodied, and I have a lower middle class salary job with benefits. Not that I'm bragging. Thank you.